time for the On-Camber Off-Camber Podcast, brought to you by McCrone Motorsports. Now here's your host, Kris McCrone.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate for tuning into the On-Camber Off-Camber Podcast. It's our second episode, I guess episode 002, right? So some of the key topics we're going to be talking about today are the series across Ohio. We want to talk about Thompson Kart Raceway, Freemont Raceway Park, Midvale, which is the Indiana Valley Karting Association, down in Cincinnati, the MCC Pro AM Series G&J Kart Raceway. We'll talk about some highlights in regards to Ohio Motorsports Park, some of the updates. Some of you may have been tuned in to the media recently and saw some things that passed. We'll dive into some of those details as well. And so to kind of lay the land over the next handful of episodes and structure is over the next 6 episodes, we're going to be bringing in a member from each of the specific tracks to speak. So next week, I believe it's April the 4th, we're going to have Doug Marsh from Thompson Kart Raceway and CKRA on our podcast, joining us, talking about everything that's going on at Thompson. There's been a lot of renovation at Coonley Motorsports Park in the last year or so, and kind of where their club is going and what to expect in the 2023 season. And we'll be laying the calendar out from there. We're excited. We're excited about the 2023 season. There's a lot of people kicking things off in April. There's a lot of test and tune days and cleaning the track and getting out, kind of getting the cobwebs off the carts for many people. And I have Scott Smith joining us in about 15 or 20 minutes. And he's going to be talking about Fremont Raceway Park. And the reason I put him on the calendar for today, not because he did such a great job 2 weeks ago, but he did do a good job, was mainly because he's got a big race coming up, the Endurance Kart Racing League, which I frankly don't know much about. I don't know. I know what endurance karting is, but I don't know much about this league. I'm excited to learn more about it myself. But they have an event this weekend, so even prior to the April 1st kickoff across Ohio and many of the tracks, there's a big event this weekend. So I'm excited to hear some of those details with him and from him, and we hopefully you can attend. I know that myself, I'll be popping on out to check out the event as well. So we're excited about that. As we kick off today, I wanted to talk a little bit about where I came from. So some of you can see the Rotax shirt that I have on. I had the opportunity to be the sporting director for the Rotax West Trophy Series. We were out at the Phoenix Kart Racing Association. What a wonderful facility it was. It's unique. It's actually owned by the government. It's a club-run organization. It's a board-run, but it's like on a state park. And next to the park, there's like a water park. There's a big train park, so kind of model trains going around. And it's a very neat environment and a very racy course. And it was nice to see not only the Rotax engine in action, but the series kicking off on the West, because part of the Rotax series across the U.S. is they have the West Series, which is a two-weekend, 4-event series that's at Phoenix and then down in Tucson at Musselman Raceway. And then the East Series is in New Jersey Motorsports Park and Pitt Raceway. And how they run their series, I find it very interesting because it's a qualifying event. So depending on different metrics, and if you win your class for the championship points, you have an opportunity to become invited to Newcastle Motorsports Park, where it's the U.S. Rotax Championships. And why would you want to go there? Well, at the U.S. Rotax Championships, they actually give tickets away to go to the World Rotax Championships. And for those that have never experienced Rotax karting and the Rotax Grand Finals, I encourage you to go to YouTube, go to Google and search Race Rotax and learn more about the actual series. I saw some of the event on YouTube last year. I've heard a lot about it from those that attended it, and it's an amazing event, and I look forward to going this year. This year's event is actually in Bahrain. So the first Formula One race of this year was in Bahrain, and if you watched any of that, you would have seen the go-kart track under lights behind the facility in a lot of the video shots. So it's a world-class facility. They'll have hundreds of go-karters there. And when you get invited to an event like that, the go-kart is there, the engine is there, the tires are there. So it's really the creme de creme of driver ability. You're not competing against different equipment, different chassis. There's a chassis brand that is run in every single class. So if you're running MIDI, I think last year was a Praga class chassis, and then senior had the Burrell chassis, and I believe Sodi was represented as well. And so it's pretty incredible to see the talent of the drivers really shine and rise to the top in a world stage. So you have an opportunity to participate in these events. And with that, the Ohio Sprint Series is going to be sponsoring a senior Rotax class only. We'll have more information on that in the next episode on April the 4th, but it will be an opportunity to win a fully paid ticket to Newcastle Motorsports Park for a chance to win your ticket to Bahrain. And what's included in that quote, golden ticket? It's the cart, it's the entry fee, it's the fuel, it's the tires, it's everything that you would need to go run the event. What's not included is simply your airfare and travel. And that same goes for the United States Championships for Rotax as well, held at Newcastle Motorsports Park. So I'm excited about the series. I think it's going in the right direction. I don't know much about the Rotax series that happened years ago. I understand there's some challenges, and maybe we'll have a guest in the show that can share more of those details with us at some point in time. But for now, it's an engine package that's reliable, affordable, and definitely extremely quick on the track. So it's an engine package I learned this past weekend that from Mini all the way up, it's the same core engine. You make some just different modifications, whether it's a cylinder, some ignition systems, radiator, etc. But you can actually run the same core engine package as you age up into different classes, which makes it more affordable as well. So along with that, Ohio Kart Parts has become a fully certified Rotax shop for all of your Rotax engine needs. We have the ability to restamp and service and seal all equipment and after the conclusion of servicing that equipment. So there'll be more on that coming in the month of April. But let's talk about the schedules here before we bring in Scott Smith specifically for Fremont Raceway Park and the Endurance Karting League. So there are a handful of tracks in Ohio that are phenomenal series in the club level. I've run at all of them except for one personally. And so I can attest to the staff, the people that own the facilities, the ease of getting to the facilities, and all the amenities that come with it. So we'll kind of go around the state of Ohio for a second. So up in the northwest, we have Fremont Raceway Park, and Scott will dive more into that. That's located in Fremont, Ohio. Their event, again, kicks off this weekend with the endurance race, but April is their formal schedule for the season. Heading a little bit further east, about a couple hours, in Thompson, Ohio, is Thompson Kart Raceway, which is located at the Coonley Motorsports Park. They're also kicking off in April. Then when you go a little bit south to Port Washington area, you have Adkins Raceway. Their schedule was released last week. It may have been the week before, but I saw it this past week. So they're going to be scheduling a handful of events. I think it's 6 or 8 events over the course of 2023. Further south in Batavia, Ohio, is the MCC Kartplex, which has the MCC Pro-Am karting series. It's run by Sean Bailiff and Michelle Bailiff, who own the Trinity Karting Group. A great race team, a great organization, and great family. They recently expanded their track to be about a mile long from 7/10. They repaved it, and it's an absolute gorgeous facility and wonderful amenities down there. And then west in the mid-side of the state near the Dayton area is G&J Kartway. G&J, or Camden it's often referred to, has been a legacy track in Ohio for many, many years. Tony Stewart, Danica Patrick, Scott Pruitt, many of the Indy greats have all grew up racing at that facility. And they have a shortened season. I'm being told that their schedule is a little shortened because they're preparing for a repave in October of this year as well. So with all the success that Motorsports has had with this Drive to Survive and the interest, we're seeing it trickle down to the kart tracks where everybody seems to be growing. We're seeing more karters, more young karters come out and explore their options, which is so exciting, especially with the time that we have the new track in Ohio being built, which I'm fortunate to be part of that. But it's a great time to be in the sport. And last but not least is Midvale. That's the track that I never had a chance to race at myself, and I've actually never attended. So the India Valley Karting organization or karting club operates that facility. I don't know much about it. Maybe Scott, who joins us, can share some details around that. Unfortunately, I never had the chance to attend, but we're going to dive into that. And we're going to put the links on the page here, WOBL. You'll see the different links directly to those pages. And that leads me into the last update I have before we take our first commercial break, and I'll bring in Scott, is the Ohio Sprint Series, full YouTube, full page, everything has been published and it's up. The Buckeye Karting Challenge / Ohio Sprint Series, the page is exactly the same. We're just starting to move over to some different mediums to get a broader reach and a broader audience. But as far as our advertising and the logo, everything's been transferred. It was an absolute pleasure working with both Scott Benton and Scott Smith in that transition. We closed out the banquet. It was a great time. I've heard rave reviews and people that absolutely loved having our guest speaker in, Xander Clements from Kart Chaser. Everybody was excited to see him. And don't forget, at the conclusion of our show, right at the 8 o'clock Eastern hour, Kart Chaser jumps on his happy hour, which he takes a deep dive into karting across the U.S. and really across the globe. So he does an amazing job, and I encourage you to plug into that. But I wanted to let you know that all of our channels for the On-Camber, Off-Camber podcast, all of our commercials starting in April for our sponsors, our sponsor interviews, our driver interviews, that all begins in April. So it took a little bit longer for me to get some of the organizational stuff done and the planning done, especially around the track and some of these things on Facebook, which I don't understand how it works. So we're learning as we grow. So I appreciate your patience with that, but I'm really excited to see the podcast grow, and we'll start having callers dial in, and we'll do Q&A, and we're here to serve the Ohio karting community. That's our goal, and I want to learn more about the dirt karting community. I want to learn more about the long, road race community. We know a lot of people in those industries, and we just kind of got to bite off the elephant one at a bite at a time here. And we're trying, we're doing our best, and we want to be of service to you. So we'll head to commercial break, and I'll bring in Scott Smith to talk about the Endurance Kart Racing League and Fremont Raceway Park. Thank you. Welcome back to the On-Camber, Off-Camber Podcast. And for those that didn't have a chance to tune in until just now, our goal today is to go over the schedules of the different kart racing clubs and associations all across Ohio. And I have the opportunity to bring in Scott Smith again. He did such a great job the last time he joined me. I wanted to kick off with him really just because they have an event this weekend. So majority of the tracks across Ohio are starting in April. Test and tune, cleaning up the track for practice days, really right before the Easter and right after Easter. But they're having a pretty big event. So I wanted to bring him in to discuss some of that. It's part of the Endurance Kart Racing League, which I don't know much about. I'm excited to learn about it myself. But before we do that, I want to bring Scott in. I made a comment in the first part of our show about the India Valley Kart Club, and it's ivkc.org, and they run out of Midvale, which is in the Akron, Canton area. I've never been there. I haven't had the opportunity to see the facility. I've heard a lot of great things about it, but I wanted, since I know nothing about it, and I only have Scott for 15 or 20 minutes, I wanted to actually have him share a little bit about that club and what to kind of expect when you go there, and what that club's all about. So, Scott, you mind sharing some information about the IVKC?
Not at all. I want to thank you for having me back this week. Enjoyed being on last time. And Indian Valley Kart Club is a group that actually used to run out of Adkins Raceway until the Adkins family took the race operations back over there, and they still wanted to promote some races on their own. So they ended up going to Midvale, worked out an arrangement with them. For those who aren't familiar, Midvale is a stock car track, actually, and they run a couple classes on the full oval, the stock car oval, and then they have road course classes that use part of the big oval and the infield, much like NASCAR is doing now with their Roval races. So not a big club, very family-oriented, like to get people started and introduce them to karting, and we've been working with them a little bit to try to grow their program. But it's good, fun, grassroots racing is the best way to describe it. Most of their classes are 206 based, but they have some Yamahas still running there. So if you got a Yamaha sitting in the closet and want to get that out, Midvale might be the place to go. There's not a lot of the sprint tracks running Yamahas anymore, and I hear they're probably going to add a KA class this year as well. So
that's great.
They're stepping up the program there a little bit. That's good to see.
Is this a club that runs like 10 to 12 races a year, kind of like you guys do at Fremont?
Exactly. They run almost all their shows on Sunday, I believe, because stock car races are Saturday night.
Okay.
And they've got a presence on Facebook and their webpage, ivkc.org.
Okay.
You can get the information there, but like I said, 206 based for the most part, with some Yamaha and KA.
I'll make it a point to reach out to somebody in the club, or maybe you can introduce me to somebody over there. That would be great. I'd like to have them on the show at some point in time, so thank you for that. But, well, let's kick it over to you. You know, this is a big deal. This enduro kart racing stuff it's growing. You know, there's so many things that are dying in our sport, and there's things that are equally growing, and that's I guess it's the game of life, right? And we'll talk about it a little bit today. Street racing got a big a punch in the gut recently, and we know the risks associated with street racing. We know the insurance is a big problem. And at the conclusion of Scott joining me today, I want to talk specifically about street racing. He's got a lot more information about it than I do. But one of the growing aspects of our industry is this endurance stuff. And, my understanding of endurance racing is typically a four-stroke application. It's where longer run times, where it's a handful of drivers, and whether it's hours based or laps based. But there's so many different clubs across the USA, adding a race, conducting a race, etc. What I never knew was that there's actually like a league, and this EKRL popped up. I had a couple messages inside of Facebook Messenger, and for those that send me messages, FYI, I check it like once a week, so I apologize. You're better off sending me an email or a text or calling the office. So no disrespect, I just don't check it that often. But this EKRL is actually, my understanding, is an actual league. And I learned recently from Scott that he's hosting an event. So, Scott, tell us about this this endurance kart racing league. What do you like? Why are you having a race at Fremont? I know you wouldn't be hosting an event if it wasn't something you're excited about. So tell us a little bit more about it and where that series is going and what to expect this weekend.
So the Endurance Kart Racing League was founded actually just last year by Evan Smoot, who's a student at the
UNOH or something?
Yes, thank you. A student at UNOH, and they have a very heavy motorsports program down there. And he had an oval track background, a NASCAR fan, and he wanted to see karting move in the direction of NASCAR a little bit. So he founded the Endurance Kart Racing League last year. Just 2 races last year, but they're expanding to 5 races this year. So growing the series. Last year they did the Fremont 500, opened their season in Fremont, and they ended it at Wilmington, so 2 Ohio tracks. And the whole idea is to run very similar to NASCAR. They run longer distance races. They run 3 segments similar to NASCAR, full course yellows if needed. The one thing different.
Walk me through the segment thing real quick. So legit like 150 laps or whatever, 125 laps, and then everybody has to stop?
So the Fremont 500 is 500 laps, and the 3 segments are 150 laps, and then a final 200-lap segment. And in between, at the end of each segment, there's a yellow flag, and they have a 10-minute pit period where you can come in, work on the kart, change oil, do almost anything, actually, that you want to the kart. They do limit the amount of tires you can use. And a lot of teams use that opportunity to change drivers as well. Some of the teams will change drivers in the middle of a segment. Some will run a full segment, and some drivers will attempt to run the full race, which is going to be interesting.
You're going to let somebody drive 500 laps by themselves?
So last year, the first and second place finishers both ran all 500 laps solo and finished about a quarter lap separated from each other.
Did they have one of those goofy, like, little water bottle things, like, on their helmet?
No, but both of them were driving with their heads pretty much to the side by the end of the race because they couldn't hold their neck up anymore.
Yeah.
Interestingly, the winning driver from last year has joined a team for this year, but we also have about 4 new teams coming in that have solo drivers, so that's going to be a challenge. Going to be interesting.
That's fantastic. So we know it's a 4-stroke event. Were there any mechanical issues last year, or the equipment able to handle all 500 laps no problem?
So at this point, the series runs all 206 engines, and there were some concerns when we scheduled this last year. And I did a little bit checking into it. There was the SimCraft 24 ran for a couple of years. Unfortunately, they're not having it this year, but that was a 24-hour race with the Briggs 206 engine, and they have had almost no engine failures through that series, so we knew 500 laps would be doable. Last year, there were no mechanical failures, engine-related mechanical failures. There were a few kart-related failures last year, but the engines run it without missing a beat, and for 500 laps, some of the teams will change oil, but you don't even need to do that, actually.
So the event, I got the schedule in front of me here. So it's March 25th. Is that Saturday or Sunday?
That's a Saturday event.
That's this Saturday. Gates open at 8 a.m., registration. 9 o'clock tech opens. 10 a.m. is practice. There's an 11:30 drivers meeting, and 1 o'clock the races start. So for those that have not registered for this event and maybe are interested in pulling a team together or even themselves driving 500 laps, how do they register for the event, number one, or can they register at the track?
So discounted registration is still available on TrackRabbit. You can get the link from Freemont Raceway Park's Facebook page or Endurance Kart Racing League. But the discounted online entry is open through Friday. Okay. So you'll save some money if you do that, but we will take entries at the track as well. And it's actually pretty reasonable. You enter the kart or the team is the official entry.
Okay.
And that is $75 and then $25 per driver additional.
Okay, so if you decide to run it yourself, it's $75.
Plus 100, I'm sorry, 100 because you've got the $25 driver fee.
And then it's 4 drivers. It's $100 plus the $75 entry fee for the cart.
Correct. Yep.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so who are some of the sponsors for the event that you wanna name drop here? So
Hoosier just stepped up, and Hoosier's supporting the race, the Fremont 500 specifically, as well as Ryan's Performance Products. Or Performance Parts. I'm going to give them a little shout out. They do some motor mounts and anodized washers and stuff like that. Very high quality, very sharp stuff. So Ryan's Performance Parts, you can check them out on Facebook or their webpage. SFR Transmissions is a series sponsor, as is N&P Apiary. And actually they even got a local sponsor. Fremont Cutlery is sponsoring the Fremont 500 as well. So, and all these sponsors basically help them to be able to put up the event. They do pay $1,000 to win, and
in both, so junior and senior.
So interesting take there too. There is one class that's run. The juniors run along with the seniors at a weight break and with the junior slide, but they're scored together. So the juniors have a chance at the $1,000 as well.
Maybe I'll get one of my kids' carts out there.
I know a couple of your kids might be interested.
Absolutely.
But they've done a good job putting the series together. So the first race is at Fremont this weekend, but then they're going up to Illinois to Mid-States Kart Club, which is one of the older traditional tracks in the country. Then they come to Wilmington in July, so they're back in Ohio. Then they're going down to Tennessee in September, and then they end at Atkins, so back to Ohio again in November. And they do a point series that takes all 5 races. I'm not sure if they have a drop or not, but they also do a Ohio Cup that's based just on the 3 Ohio races. So a lot of stuff going on there.
Great. So for those that want more information, check out the Endurance Kart Racing League. I mean, this seems to be like a really, really cool opportunity. Endurance racing really gets a lot of people excited. I've never participated in it myself yet, but it's definitely something that I would be interested in checking out. I know we're going to go out there this weekend. Maybe we'll throw a kart together for some of the kids to have some fun. But check it out, EKRL, and see if there's a race near you. So it's something that I would definitely participate in. So let's change gears here for a second and talk about Fremont Raceway Park. So, when you were on 2 weeks ago, Scott, we talked about your experience in racing, and you've been in racing for a long time. You've been in the good, the bad, engine changes, and series changes, and so many different things that have occurred. But one of the things that's been a constant is your track in Ohio. Since I was a kid, it was Fremont Raceway Park, Thompson Kart Raceway, Atkins, Columbiana, which unfortunately is no longer around. Navarre is no longer around. But these are staple tracks. And so I know you guys have changed things up this year a little bit. You added a class. I saw some announcements made about some rule changes and engines. So take some time and kind of walk through what does 2023 look like for Fremont Raceway Park.
So 2023, we're looking to continue the growth that we've had over the last couple of years. My son Carson manages the daily operations of the track and the weekly races. And we're kind of back to basics for this year. Most of the classes are 206 based. We've grown from, we went from almost dying and having to close the track to growing the 206 classes greatly. The sportsman class was doing really, really well, still is, and now some of them kids are finally moving up to the junior class, so we're seeing some growth in the junior class. And a similar thing with our seniors. The senior class got to the point where we've had enough karts, enough interest, we added a master's class, which is doing really well also. So the primary focus is there, but we've got a lot of people that want to get on track but didn't want to spend the money to get into the 206 right away. And also, unfortunately, there was the issue with the supply for the Briggs occasionally stopping people from getting in. So we've added a Predator class, which is a bare bones beginner class. People should be able to get on track for $500 to $700 with a used cart and a new engine, and come out and figure out what it's all about. And we expect in the future to transition some of them people to 206s and then to the Ohio Sprint Series and other classes like that, other series. So we expect a lot of good things out of that.
That's great, Scott. So you mentioned this Predator class. This is the Harbor Freight engine. Is that correct?
It is the Harbor Freight Predator, not the Ghost engine.
Okay.
You can buy these engines for $150 or less at Harbor Freight, sometimes $100 when they're on sale. You throw a shoe clutch on it, no disc clutch is allowed, and you've got to keep the governor in it, so there's a rev limit, so they'll last a little while at least. And basically go out, run it, and have fun. We did an experiment at the Clyde Grand Prix last year where we expanded that class, and it was one of the biggest classes at the race. So a lot of those people are excited about coming to Fremont and playing on the asphalt a little bit more. The class is proven on the dirt tracks, but hasn't been implemented much on asphalt.
That's great. And the whole goal with these grassroots clubs is to keep the cost down and allow guys and gals to throw a cart in the back of a hatchback, in the back of a pickup truck, or drag it on a trailer. You don't need to have this massive equipment. So many people get into this sport and they come to a local club series and they see the regional team pull in. Well, the regional team is often there testing and tuning and trying different things with maybe younger drivers, or they're doing some driver coaching, etc. And yeah, they roll in with a 30 or 40-foot trailer and all the bells and whistles. But the whole idea of club racing in Ohio, and I applaud Freemont Raceway Park, I applaud Thompson and G&J and these guys. They do a great job of keeping it simple and really showing people that you don't need all the bells and whistles to come out to learn a lot, to develop your racecraft and keep the cost down and affordable for one or two people in the family. Obviously, if you're hauling around 3 or 4 carts, unless you got 2 or 3 cars, you're going to need a trailer. It's probably more economical. But the whole goal is, can you get people in the sport, get them out, get them to a track, and get them in this seat to enjoy themselves and learn and develop their racecraft. So I congratulate you. I'm excited to participate in some of the events with our kids, and I look forward to Ohio to continue to have the grassroots program to help develop drivers from a young age into cars, whatever their passion may be. So to close out, and I don't want to steal your thunder here, but I want to talk about your schedule. So the typical race day schedule, 8 a.m. gates open, 9 o'clock registration opens, 2 rounds of practice, one at 10 o'clock and one at 10:45. Registration closes, and then right around lunchtime, 11:45, is a driver's meeting, and then you kick off racing for the day. And majority of your events, Scott, they are Sundays. Is that correct? Yeah,
the majority of our events are Sunday, and you touched on something I want to talk about real quick, was the affordability and getting people out to the track and practicing and stuff like that. One thing we do is the track is open Wednesdays and most Saturdays for practice, very reasonable practice fees, and it's available for private rental on other days as well. But that's one thing that some of the smaller tracks, the Fremont, the Thompson, the Atkins and stuff, can provide, is a place for people to get in the laps and hone their racecraft, work on chassis handling and their driving and stuff like that without a lot of pressure and pro teams, zooming past them and stuff like that. But race days are mostly on Sunday, and fairly relaxed pace, but we work to get people out at a reasonable time. Most of the race days are done. People are back on the road about 4 o'clock, so plenty of time to get home and still have dinner or visit grandma or whatever.
That's great. So for more information, check out www.fremontracewaypark.com. That's fremontracewaypark.com. We're going to take a short commercial break, and then, Scott, I want you to stick around for a few minutes. Let's talk about this the concern, the logic or illogic thoughts behind street kart racing. You have experience with Clyde Grand Prix. You managed it, you dealt with it, you know the insurance risks, etc. And I know that kart racing in a whole got dealt with a gut punch recently. And we'll talk a little bit about that before we kind of close things with the Ohio Motorsports Park update. So we'll take a short commercial break, and we'll have Scott back to talk about some street kart racing. Welcome back to the On-Camber, Off-Camber Podcast, and I have my guest here for the mid part of the show with Scott Smith. We just got done talking about Freemont Raceway Park, and he shared some information about the Indian Valley IVKC club down at Midvale. And again, we're going to have Doug Marsh from Thompson Kart Raceway on our show April the 4th. I look forward to hearing more about what Thompson. They kick off their season April 1st, and we'll talk more about that at the end of the show and kind of highlight some of the dates that are important for them. But we're excited to learn more about karting in Ohio and the different tracks and what different events are going on. So I encourage you to check out information about that endurance kart racing league that we discussed with Scott. That definitely seems to be a pretty cool opportunity and cool series that runs across this Midwest area. So we're changing gears to talk about street racing. And as I mentioned, I just about an hour before the show tonight, I saw the post about Commercial Point. And we happen to know the Queen family, Austin Queen and Rick Queen, who I knew that were heavily involved in that race, and always enjoyed it. A wonderful family for karting, true ambassadors of the sport. But I don't know much about street racing other than the couple times I've raced at the Clyde Grand Prix. And so Scott, he actually orchestrated, helped manage, put together the Clyde Grand Prix. So he's got a pulse on what it takes to run a street race. And maybe he can share some information for the listeners today to help us know and learn why it is so challenging, and why are these cities and kart racing associations walking away from the street race environment. So Scott, what information can you share about running a race like that in the streets, and what the risks really are, and how expensive it actually is?
So a lot of today's karters are not real familiar with the street racing and not real into it, have concerns about the safety levels and stuff like that. I've started street racing when I was about 14 years old. We did all the Indiana street races and a lot of the Ohio ones, and Michigan, even Pennsylvania. They were very prevalent throughout the Midwest. Have died out through the years, but over the last, since our last your last podcast, over the last 2 weeks, we've gotten some really bad news on the street race front. I knew there were some insurance issues coming, but SIRA, the Southern Indiana Racing Association, is one of the older clubs in the country, and they were street race and temporary circuit centered for the most part, and they actually canceled their entire season for 2023 due to not being able to get insurance. They're going to regroup and come back next year, hopefully, and do a series that travels to some different tracks and stuff like that. But it was just too late this year for them to put something together. And then today, the news dropped that the Commercial Point Karting Classic, which was one of the oldest street races in the country, they're not going to be able to run this year. Same reason, lack of insurance. They're hoping to get something put together to be back next year, but it's going to be tough. Quincy, Illinois, one of the oldest street races in the country, earlier this year announced that they were going to be done. Same basic issue there was insurance. I was working with a group there to try to find insurance for that race, and just no luck there. And the situation, a lot of the karters are questioning WKA and AKRA and NKA about, why aren't you insuring these races? Well, the problem isn't with them, it's with the underwriters. There's only 2 underwriters left, basically, that insure karting, only a handful that even insure motorsports, and they've made a decision as a group that it's just too much of a liability for them at this point. So it's going to leave us with probably only 4 street races in the entire country for 2023.
So, Scott, what races are you aware of on the street race side that will be run in 2023?
So, the Anderson Mayor's Cup Grand Prix in Anderson, Indiana, runs in the spring. I believe it's Mother's Day weekend this year. They're still going to be able to have that race. The Elkhart Grand Prix, which is tied with USAC and USAC Karting, that is the first weekend in August in Elkhart, Indiana. Awesome event if you have a chance to go to that, whether it's to spectate or to participate. Great event there, run by the USAC Karting Group and Jason Burgess and Mike Burrell. And then Rock Island is, at this point, one of the older races. When we first started going there, it wasn't, but they've been around for a long time there. So they do the King of the Streets program, and that's on Labor Day weekend. And then third full weekend in September, it's September 17th is the Clyde Grand Prix this year. But it's looking like them are going to be the only 4 street races in the entire country this year.
Wow, that's big news. Street racing is obviously a whole different game. You head to an event and it's a temporary circuit on streets. You're dealing with pothole covers. You're dealing with a lot of setup. And I know the risks are definitely higher. But one thing I want to make sure that, Scott hit on it is the insurances. The big insurance bodies that we deal with, the National Karting Alliance, the World Karting Association, and the AKRA, these are great groups. They're very good groups of people that do have the best interests of our sport in mind. But all of their insurances are conglomerates that are underwritten by larger groups. And when a larger group walks away, it's not the NKA's fault. It's the underwriting agency stepped in and says, hey, the risk is too high for us. And so I don't know the reason why, but maybe this is an opportunity to invite Joe Janowski in or somebody from one of the large agencies to help us get a better understanding about how insurances really work, because it's so easy for me as a dad or a racer to jump in and say, oh, man, we got to fight this fight and it's wrong and we need to be racing. And I agree with you. But when the risks are so high, what happens is premiums skyrocket. And ultimately it comes down to then who pays for that. So if a typical premium for a street race, and I'm speaking totally out of tune here, I'm just throwing numbers out there for discussion. Let's just say it's $5,000 to $10,000 to insure an event. Well, if the risk skyrockets and there's 1 or 2 underwriters, and now that premium goes to $40,000, because of maybe something that's happened in the past or injury or something, something similar, that $40,000 gets distributed down to the 150 competitors. So now the entry fee that was $150 is now $550. And that's ultimately what's happening. So I don't think anybody in our sport is disingenuous and anti-street racing. It really comes down to risk management. And I hope that we can find some solutions as we go forward, because street racing it's a wonderful aspect of our sport. It's super challenging. It brings out some great drivers, and it's a heck of a lot of fun when you drop into some of these towns. So if we can't do that, maybe there's an opportunity to dive into some more parking lot races. We know a lot of these municipalities that may have had a street race. Maybe there's a larger parking lot tied to a state school or a local school or a government institution that can be rented out, where the risks aren't as high for somebody getting hurt. So we'll explore more of that. I'll make sure that we invite some guests on our show here in the near future to try to get some of those questions answered. But Scott, I appreciate you coming on the show. I appreciate your time. I do look forward to the endurance kart racing series this weekend. I don't know if I'll have my kids out there racing or not, but I'll be out there to support it for sure. I look forward to the season at Freemont Raceway Park, and I wish you guys all the luck this year at Fremont. So I appreciate you joining us again this week. I appreciate you inviting me, and keep up the good work, spreading the good word about karting in Ohio. I appreciate it. So let's kick over here to talk about our next show on April. I want to spend the next couple minutes talking about the Thompson Kart Raceway prior to having Doug on the show. A couple big things for him. April 1st and April 2nd is the cleanup day at Thompson. And if you have time to jump on out there, it's a Saturday and Sunday, the week before Easter. If you can spare an hour or two, I know it would be greatly appreciated by him and the board to help clean up the track and get it ready. And then work for practice starts Saturday the 8th, which is right before Easter, and then the full practice series. So I would love for you guys to check out both Fremont and Thompson. They're great local tracks in the northern Ohio area. They run great series, and I'm very excited about not only my kids will race there, but the sport is growing here in northern Ohio for sure. So you can check out www.thompsonkartraceway, THOMPSONKART raceway.com for more information. So we'll take a short commercial break, and we'll close out the show with the updates from Ohio Motorsports Park. Welcome back to the On-Camber, Off-Camber Podcast. It was great having Scott Smith here from Freemont Raceway Park to share some additional insights of street racing and the Endurance Kart Racing League. And now I get to kind of close the show tonight talking about the updates with Ohio Motorsports Park. It's been a long 3 years and 3 months, but officially last week we had the opportunity on Monday night to finalize everything with City Council with an 11-0 vote on approving the sale and transfer of the land to develop the Motorsports Park facility. So we're finalizing the exact details of the name and all that stuff. It's pretty exciting right now. And the final logo, we had a general logo from Ohio Motorsports Park out there. But all that for marketing purposes is going to be finalized here in the very, very near future. But I wanted to talk about some timelines and what to expect over the next few months. So I'm excited to share that the owner's rep that we've engaged is Mike Bosetti from Sortis Design. He's a civil engineer, trained at got educated at the Ohio State University, and he's been a wonderful resource for us. He's finalizing some things with us in regards to the different aspects of development, such as the earth movers and the contractors who are putting up the steel and the plumbing and HVAC and electrical. And I'm excited to share all those names with you because I want you guys to participate in this journey with us. And so to do that, in April, we're going to begin doing a flyover of the facility. So we've hired a company out of Columbus, Ohio. That's a drone company, and they work a lot in the construction industry. And they will take off from the exact same spot twice a month. And they will fly over the property in the same exact pattern. So every 2 weeks on our social media platforms, on this podcast here, I will make sure that we use the technology to share that image. Maybe it's a 2-minute commercial break where you guys can watch the actual flyover of the drone, but you can see the progress that will be made. We want you guys to participate in the journey with us. You know, we hope that you're excited about the opportunity for a motorsports park to come to Lorain. We know there's so much that we can be doing in this process of construction, but the easiest way for me to keep you guys involved is to show you the pictures along the way. So from this point forward, I don't know if it'll be the April 4th show or the 21st show. We'll have our first flyover but we will be bringing that starting in the month of April. And we also encourage you to chime in, follow us on Facebook, follow us on YouTube. I think we're on Instagram as well. We're not on TikTok. I don't have any plans to be on TikTok either. But the three main platforms, obviously YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, or I refer to it as Fakebook. Check it out. And join the journey with us. Share your feedback. We promise that we'll answer as many questions as we possibly can, but you can imagine it's pretty challenging with the amount of feedback that we get and the calls that we get. Sometimes it's pretty hard. But this podcast will be the best source for that information. I will commit to doing a quick update every single podcast like I'm doing right now, specifically around the Motorsports Park and all the different phases. So we are kicking off with Phase 1 in April. It's going to be the 2 outdoor kart tracks. On the next show, I will show the map of the facility. We'll talk about the buildings, the timelines, when they expect to be done, what will be inside each building, how companies can have events there. We're bringing a lot to the entertainment industry inside the city of Lorain. And our goal is for our facility not to be just focused on motorsport, but we like to see families come and participate and spend some time there to learn more about the city of Lorain and the history down Broadway Avenue and all the things that go on in Lorain with the concert series. It's been an absolute pleasure working with Lorain Port Authority. It's been a pleasure working with Lorain City Council, Mayor Jack Bradley, Sanford, Washington. These guys have been fantastic. So I'm very excited about that. I'm excited about this journey, and I'm excited to let you know that everything has got the green light for transfer that is expected to be done end of next week or the beginning of April, and we fully anticipate to having a shovel in the ground in the month of April. So thank you for your patience. Thank you for all your questions. But it's been a journey, and we're very excited to be where we're at today, and we look forward to hosting our first state race with the Ohio Sprint Series on August 18th, 19th, and 20th. So with that, as soon as the track is ready to be raced on, yes, a couple questions that I get every day. Yes, we will have practice days, probably in the month of July. Yes, our garages will be up for sale soon for those that want to rent a garage for the season. We'll be sharing some of those amenities that come along with that. And yes, we're going to do a fall little club series, probably 3 or 4 Saturdays in the month of September and October, where we run a short fall mini club series and do something fun around that with the track and facility prior to the 2024 full season. So thank you for joining us today on the On-Camber, Off-Camber podcast. Again, I thank my guest, Scott Smith. I thank the folks over here at WOBL Radio. They've been tremendous to us. And I encourage you, as I sign off here tonight, dial into Kart Chaser. Kart Chaser on YouTube or Kart Chaser on different social platforms, Facebook included. Xander Clemens does an amazing job on sharing what's going on the regional, national karting scene, and I'm sure he's going to have a pretty big update after last weekend's event down at the Orlando Kart Center. So thank you for joining, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
The proceeding was a paid informational program.